AI cannot scale your business. I promise you this. This has never been done. It's never been done. Just doing this to scale your business. It takes a good buyer, an expert buyer. An expert buyer. That's the only way you can scale. And I mean that like I have not seen a case study, not one, where AI has completely scaled a business and it totally won and now we can all fire all the buyers. That just hasn't happened yet.
Welcome back to another episode of Ground Up. Super excited about the conversation that we're going to have today. Get a chance to meet with another amazing guest. Before we dive too deep into who you are and what you've done, Yousaf, I'd love to know how you doing today.
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Matt?
Man, I am absolutely amazing. It's been a crazy busy week. For a lot of the audience knows I just recently shut down a major project that I've been working on for the past year. I've had a 1-year contract that I've been working on that I just finished that project. And I thought when I did that, Yousaf, that all of a sudden my schedule was going to free up. I was going to have a little bit more time. I was going to play a little extra golf. And of course, as soon as I freed that schedule up, multiple things just go in and replace it, which not going to complain about that. I know that when we were kind of doing a little side chat, you said you're also incredibly busy right now, but tell us, for the audience, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Yousaf Yunus, and I am the CEO and founder of YRV Dynamics. We do PPC all day long. We also have ventured into other avenues as well, such as email marketing, site design, site development, the technical aspects, back end, front end of site design and development. And really, it's been a great journey. We've started in 2022. As with most people in this industry, I was laid off. Our agency that I was previously at, and when I say our, me and my other co-founders, we were at, went insolvent, and it was a great place. I love the place. But just one day we woke up, we got emails, and it's not don't bother coming to work, and it was very scary at the time. And this was when the first kind of wave started happening. It was almost like a pre-wave of what we're seeing right now. After us, a couple of other agencies closed after that happened. Unemployed, I didn't know what to do. I had a couple of offers, and I think in the back of my mind, I've always toyed with being a contractor, opening my own gig, and really having a go at it. I think we all, when we do the employment route, we always think, hey, I think I could make better decisions than what I'm seeing here, right? I think that's always like almost the fire, the spark, And so when you have an opportunity, I'm like, you start looking around and you see other people doing it, and that's when it really started happening. When people, it was around post-COVID. That's when I started seeing a lot of like freelance gigs. Upwork was like totally going up. I was just like, why not me? And so what I did, I was on a life raft. I had a great co-founder named Rena we were at the same company. She was on a life raft. We joined our boats together and made a bigger boat. And, it's been quite a ride, and, as with any agency, when you start a business, it's ups and downs. The first year was very slow, and we've been slowly, and amazingly scaling very well. And we're in our fourth year, or about to hit our fourth year. And it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made. It's given me almost a second act in my career, really. I mean, there comes a point when you're like, you're going through these motions, and hey, I don't want to work with, do I want to work with 20-year-olds still, and you're like, why not just make my own thing? And it really has given me a whole purpose. I almost left the industry. I almost entirely left it. And this has totally given me a second act. So I've been very grateful.
I love that. I love that story. And, so often you hear people go in to entrepreneurship with the choice. And it sounds like to me, Yousaf, you kind of went into it by force and made it work in that sense, which I think is great. I mean, I was probably the other end of the spectrum, Yousaf. I knew I wanted to leave, but I was scared to do it for probably 2 years before I actually made the final move to do it. I knew that I wasn't valued at the corporation that I was at. I knew that I had an inevitable ceiling. I knew that the thing that was keeping me there was the security and comfort of the salary. And I ultimately look back at the day that we made the decision for me to part ways with that business was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it forced my hand and made me move my feet that I knew I needed to do. I knew I wanted to do, but I was unwilling to do. To that point, probably one of the worst days of your life getting that email, but also the evolution to what you have today. Now, what I would love to know is the first 6 months. What does that look like for you as you guys are building this, going out on your own, doing it? What does this first 6 months look like?
A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of crying. It was tough. I had no clients. Actually, I take that back. We had some clients that stayed with me that they kind of wanted a bridge, right? Because they wanted to go to a larger agency. I just was not set up. I didn't even have an agency. I had my co-founder who I was working with at the time, and that was it. We just were not big enough to handle these clients, these big clients. So, a lot of clients were like, hey, I want to partner with you, but you don't have credit, you don't have a lot of things, and so we just didn't have that infrastructure in place. And that's what I immediately did. I immediately started just building out this process and infrastructure, literally with a hammer in my hand and a screwdriver in the other, and started tooling, building something. And that's what we did. And you have to develop all these different sales processes, as well as the intake process, onboarding process, longevity process. You not only just bring the clients in, but make them happy every step of the way. Had to hire, and it was learning how to swim in 30-foot waves. I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs in the beginning, especially when you become an employer and then you make that switch to an entrepreneur, it's such a culture shock. Culture shock is not even the word for it. It is it's like going from swimming in the kiddie pool to being a Navy SEAL in the air, sea. I think that's why a lot of people actually kind of fail. Also, another reason why there was issues a lot of times, when I was growing up, my mom was a teacher, my dad worked for the city. No one in my family, except one person, was an entrepreneur. And I knew about it. I was going to be a company guy. I was going to get a salary for the rest of my life and get a 401k and right into the night. And that just doesn't exist. That just doesn't exist anymore. It just simply does not exist. My mom retired as a teacher on 100% salary. I mean, that just doesn't exist. That's gone.
Right. Yeah.
Even teachers now, they're laying off teachers. So, and unfortunately, and so, I just didn't know how to be an entrepreneur. So I just had to learn it and just be in this mindset of, keeping track of P&L, always be closing, know your ABCs, according to Alec Baldwin, all that stuff, and just really get into that mindset. It was very uncomfortable. But once, I would say it was almost like Batman, there's Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, and I forgot the last one, but it was like that. It was like you just have a really hard time. You get your sea legs under you, and so that first 6 months was really tough. I talked to a lot of friends. I talked to people who luckily were on that journey as well, and I got a lot of advice. It was always don't panic. Do you have enough savings? And luckily I had a lot of savings. And I just started going to previous clients that I worked with that were a lot smaller. I know I can handle. We had a great client come to us that kept our lights on while we developed our sales channels. And one was Upwork. We also had a referral network, even the organics, and really just developing those out. The first 6 months was very tough, but I think looking back, I think it was a very good proving ground to really go with a lot of experimentations to drive sales and whatnot. So luckily a lot of that worked.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, when I went into my business, the advantage I had that I think a lot of technical people, it sounds like you're probably more of a technical executor. The advantage I have is that I have no problem making sales. The problem is how do then I execute, right? How do I then deliver and provide that service behind the sales? Now, there's a lot of other people who have the ability to execute for days, but it's how do I get more customers? How do I market? How do I get the people to buy those things? And it sounds like that's one of the reasons why I really like working in my business with technical founders who know their product, they know their service, they know their offering better than anybody else could, but they're not classically trained in sales, and being able to work with them and then teach them how to do this differently, that differently to get different outcomes. And then that next evolution, Yousaf, which is I can't do everything at once. I'm the founder and the CEO, but I can't be the janitor, the seller, the account manager, the implementation specialist, and everything else. I need to now bring in people to do that. And especially when you don't have experience hiring for those roles that are not your background, it's really, really hard to kind of supplement your weaknesses, which ultimately is kind of, I think, the make or break for most entrepreneurs. And how do you become a solopreneur to an entrepreneur is when you can start hiring to supplement you. Did you find a challenge in that, Yousaf, or did you find it mostly you would hire to replace you in the places you were good and you just always filled the gaps in the places you weren't necessarily strong at?
No, great question. So you can only be so good. You can only be so good. At the end of the day, you're going to be judged. Your company's going to be judged on how good your people around you are, really. Like you said, I can't do it all. I actually profess I'm not an expert in reporting. Like I mean, I know how to interpret the data, but I moved on from pivot tables and just being at that granular level. I respect anybody who can actually go in there and do it in 30 seconds. I'm a little slower, but hey, I know how to do like the media plans and all sorts of stuff and the buys and all that stuff. But as far as like being in the trenches, yes, it is very respectful. Yes. But you should be totally like a 360-degree angle looking around and making sure that your competition, watching what they're doing, watching what the industry's doing, watching what is your client happy? I mean, that is a basic question that I think a lot of people skip. Like, is your client happy right now? Like, do you know they're happy? Do you know they're not looking around? That is such a basic question. And a lot of technical, even entrepreneur people just don't, well, yeah, I think he's happy or I think she's happy. You think, like you should know. You should go right down the list. I talked to this person yesterday. This person, this person knocked out of the park. This person knocked out of the park. Wait, this person is, their buys are so. Like, are we giving enough attention? Do they need an audit? All that stuff is stuff that you have to do at an upper level. You can't be, you have to have all that expertise and the troops under you to make sure that all the buys are being done correctly, all the optimizations are being done, all the reporting, all that stuff. And you are right. That's one thing I'm finding out in year 4 is, it's so respectful to be in the trenches. One other thing I'm having an issue on personally is making sure that when we onboard a client, yes, it's awesome I'm there, but I have to make sure like my co-founders are also leading the charge and making sure they're leading the process, because what's going to happen is they're going to want you on every meeting, which is great. That's awesome. I'm actually on almost every meeting, but you can't be, as you scale a business, 30 meetings a week. There's 50, 60 hours of, we work, as entrepreneurs, we work way more than that. But, just in terms of bandwidth of meetings, that's 20 to 30 meetings, right? Like that's a tremendous volume, Yeah. So you have to make sure you have that backfill to do all those tasks. So that's something that I think is, you're absolutely right, is you have to have it in your purview and always be looking 360 degrees because your team's on the ground floor. Your job is to look on top and make sure, do the troops have enough food? Do they have enough ammunition? All that stuff,
Yeah. And I see that's probably where most of the entrepreneurs I talk to make the biggest mistake is they don't know how to let go of the ground level. They want to be deep. I've got a client that I worked with for over a year, and the biggest conversation I have with him on a weekly basis is, why the fuck are you still doing all of your sales? You're the CEO of a company that makes $10 million a year, and you're the only seller in this organization. Like, why? Like, he's great. He's amazing at selling, but he loves to sell, so he's not willing to give it up. And then every time he tries to bring in somebody to help him with sales outside of himself, he never spends enough time with them to be able to give them the knowledge they have to be able to get it off his plate. Now, I have a cool trick, Yousaf. to be able to answer that question that you asked of, is my customer happy? Okay. So do you have employees who do account management of your clients, or do you still manage that yourself?
We're doing that. We're finally getting to that. So yes, finally, yes, barely.
Here's what I would have you ask your employee. If we went to our customer today and told them we're going to increase our price by 10 to 15%, are we going to keep them? If the answer to that is no, we'll lose them. You don't have a happy customer. If the answer to that is yes, then you have a happy customer. And that's the question I always ask my team, which is, let's get a landscape of where we are. If you increase your prices by 10%, would your customer leave? When you create a level of uncomfort for them, would they leave or would they stay because you are delivering more value than you're charging? That's the objective of any business service provider, is that you need to have a better value for what they're getting. And if you should at all times be able to, not that you would, but be able to increase cost and not lose more than 20% of your customers. If not, don't as much worry about right now. Worry about fixing what you have. When you get that number to where at least 80% would not leave, then you're ready to scale. That's something I would definitely suggest most entrepreneurs who are kind of factoring that maintenance versus scaling side of the business. Have you ever thought of a question like that? Have you ever thought of framing it that way to identify the happiness of the customer?
Absolutely. I think one of the blessings and curses of starting in your business is, what should the rate be, right? Because when you're first starting, your gut is always to go low, right? Like, oh yeah, just bring them in here, just bring them in, you know? But at the same time, you know, you realize, and that's almost like we're going back to the first year or 6 months, is, you know, you really have to take a look at what your service is, and are you charging a decent rate that's not going to drive your team nuts and you nuts, and make sure it's profitable. And so that's a painful lesson I learned. Going probably into year 2 or 3 is charging that right rate and making sure that, like you said, you know, I think that's a great question. You know, if we charge, you're right, 10 to 20% extra, would they go nuts, and would they leave? And I think that's a great canary in the coal mine, a great test. I think that's very smart. I think it's very smart.
I've had a luxury of doing over the past year is the opportunity for me to start firing customers. And when you get to that point in your business where you can now say, what you pay me versus the headache you cause me is not worth it, I'll still work with you, but I got to charge you 50% more, or I can replace this time with another customer that is more worth it. That's a great place to be. And now I know that's a luxury that not a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses have a chance to do, but especially when you're in a time is what you're exchanging, your time and energy with time on the calendar, you got to be very, very careful with where you spend your time and protect that time. Now, once you get it to where you can offset your services without you being there, it's a slightly different proposition. Now, Yousaf, question for you. Right now, how big is your current team? I know that you guys have been in business for 4 years. I know you guys are growing. What is the size of your current team today?
About 6 to 8. Yeah, about 2 part-timers, so about 6 to 8 roughly. So 6 permanent, 2 part-time.
Okay. Do you have anybody who specializes for you today in sales?
No, actually, that is me, unfortunately. But yeah, I think I see the logic here. So, but yes, no, that's something, again, we're working on for 2026. So
perfect. Okay. And now if you were to bring in a salesperson in 2026, what would be the main task you would have them do for you? Would it be somebody who's doing some appointment setting, lead gen? Would you have them somebody who's presenting and closing deals for you? Somebody who's running the full sales cycle? What does an ideal sales supplement look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd love to hand it all off, ideally. But, you know, the thing I think most agencies, as well as I am struggling with, is the acquisition funnel, right? Just getting the appointments in and setting them up for meetings and the discovery calls. I feel our close rate is amazing. I noticed like when we get in there, once we get, we start hearing all the problems. And then of course, if it's a vetted client too, the lead is very vetted. There's a lot of people who are just, they're minnows, we definitely want that. And that's another thing we're looking for that started this year was there's a director of marketing. There's at least 10 employees on their side, right? It's I love the American dream. I love the bootstrapping, but sometimes it's just a little too volatile if the startup or the company's a little too small. So one thing we started mandating was at least 10 employees, so much in revenue a year, and a director of marketing. And so far that's been working because I notice like now when we get leads, like they close way more easier. It's not like a struggle. It's not, they understand like what we're doing in our results, our case studies and whatnot. And then I feel it's a much easier close. As far as the sales funnel, I think that is that's, I would say definitely I'm probably in the area where as problems come up and there are issues, but as you go on into your business cycle, those issues become larger. Like at first, we were pricing so low that we were able to get people in. Hell yeah, you're offering this stuff, you're giving it away. So of course you're getting people in. But then you need to make a profit, right? So then you start raising your price. So you gotta your sales cycle has to be far more improved. So that's where we're definitely we're improving. But I would love somebody to take that over. The whole thing, shoot. That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be a gift.
It's interesting, and obviously I'd be willing to help you and kind of give you some tips and tricks on that process as we come out of this conversation. But yeah, I would tell you that for me, when I'm speaking with somebody that's in your stage, the first step I would focus on is try to find a young, energetic person that all I need them to do is sell appointments, do some outreach, cold calling, get me appointments. Over time, when they can do that consistently, then I can teach them how to do an effective sales discovery. And then once they can do that, then they can evolve into somebody who can then present the solution to the sales discovery as well. And for me, that can be, if coached correctly, can be no more than a 4 to 6 month period of evolution, but it's a natural progression where you can bring in somebody young, hungry, who's excited about the growth opportunity to be able to get tested in one place, organically grow in that place. And that's a lot of times what I help founders do is how to make that first hire, how to train them, how to do that process. So prior to us talking, you said that one of the things you're really, really kind of interested in right now as a guy who is foundationally built on PPC and advertising is there's a lot of changes in the landscape of PPC right now. I'd love to know from you, like, what do you feel like is the biggest changes? Just to give you a background on me, over the past 10 to 15 years, I've sold a lot of websites, SEO, and PPC. My background is in automotive, working for some of the largest automotive website and advertising companies there. I played a part in building like 3 or 4 of the largest automotive website advertising companies inside of automotive. So I've sold website as the core function, PPC and SEO combined as an ancillary add-on product. So I've got a decent fundamental understanding of it, but what do you think has changed about it over the past 3-5 years?
Definitely going back to the technical aspect, buying is completely different than it was 2 years ago. I'd even say a year and a half ago. I would say it's you have Andromeda and what's going on right there with Meta and just changing the game. Like, it's incredible how much has changed. I think for small businesses, the basics are still true, having a good acquisition, remarketing, retargeting funnel with Meta, but also Google. Like Google is, man, it's incredible. Everything between, the way PMax has completely evolved to demand gen, which was video action ads before, or AI Max, all sorts of stuff. Basically, the automation has really taken foothold. I think there's always still room for buyers. I don't think Google is at a point in the near future to basically eliminate the buying position. Like I said, we're really busy. The thing to it is with automation, it kills off, or I don't want to say kills off, but it starves the oxygen of the more junior positions of the buying vertical. So what does that mean? That means, like, say if you have a lot of agencies, right? And a lot of them are, so-so, they're kind of staffed with people who are, so-so learning, a lot of junior people, etc. A lot of a lot of the redundancies there are going to be taken up by AI. That is being done by AI. So when somebody comes to you and says, oh yeah, I can do your PPC buys, I can build it out. Really, automation could do. Literally anybody can go in there, probably watch a couple of YouTube videos and set up a basic campaign. The problem with AI is it's not at a point where it can scale your business. AI cannot scale your business. I promise you this. This has never been done. It's never been done. It's okay. Yeah, it's taking jobs. It's doing this. To scale your business, it takes a good buyer, an expert buyer. That's the only way you can scale. And I mean that I have not seen a case study, not one, where AI has completely scaled a business and it totally won and now we can all fire all the buyers. That just hasn't happened yet. One day it will. I'm not saying it won't, but we're just not there yet. You still need a steady you still need a steady hand. Are you willing to take surgery from your business as a patient? Are you willing to go into surgery with a junior person with AI, or are you willing to go in there with an expert, well thought out buyer who knows what they're doing to go in there, do the exploratory surgery, fix stuff, make recommendations, and put you on the path of recovery? That's what experts do. And I think a lot of agencies it's fine. I mean, there's cost cutting. I have to cost cut. I get it. But you have to make sure that the goal is to be the best and to be experts. A lot of times, like I was even saying earlier, it's also buying, but it's also expanding out to organic. You mentioned SEO, also email services, etc. Those are all huge. Email marketing is big right now. It's almost exactly what social was before a lot of the ad blockers and the issues that started having with privacy. It's had a rebirth. Of all things, email marketing, I used to laugh at it. Now it's like, well, I have a whole department dedicated to it. And also, I would say another thing that a lot of businesses are not doing when it comes to agencies or agency business and PPC is looking outside of your purview. The other day, we had a repiping specialist client, and we were talking, and they put aside budget of all things, they put aside budget for direct mail. Now, I remember direct mail. I think you and I are close in age. I think we both know direct mail, and that was a joke. That used to clog up my mom's mailbox. Oh, and I used to laugh at it. I used to not look at it. But apparently now with direct mail, it's been so underground that it just went. No one got it. So now when these millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, even Xers or even Boomers now get mail, it's like a big deal. Like, oh, hey, this has my name on it. Let's open it. They're just, Gen Alpha hasn't been exposed to direct mail. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like a special thing with your name on it. And of all things, direct mail is very strong.
So I had an executive at this company. His company's called Forever Card, and he came to me with like an investment opportunity to invest in and kind of be an early adopter to this process. The pitch behind this, Yousaf, and it blew my mind, but also was like so refreshingly was they just will send greeting cards in a direct mail capacity, B2B, B2C, in a direct mail side, but then they will make it a greeting card, great artwork, QR code, clickable metrics, data analytics, offer, all of those things. We talked about how we can then use AI video integrations in where you can have a video, kind of like a Loom video, which you can implement into a QR code. So then when you send it to a prospective client, it can be greeting them with me saying a certain message to them. Could even have a link to a live demo for them to then see the demo and then schedule and book an appointment. I mean, when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, like it's that kind of like bell bottoms coming back in style thing, is because we've gotten so digital that now getting something in the mail is abnormal, to where for so long it was the thing that everybody was engulfed with. And you still got to do it in a way that's how are you going to stand out. So I mean, I talked about maybe doing a postcard style one, looking like it's handwritten, having the QR code with check out this offer attached to it. And the amount of analytics data and tracking measures on those are through the roof. And he was giving me some analytics around some of the campaigns they've done, and it's been amazing. And so, yeah, to that point, it's like, it's almost we take things way too far, and then kind of the other things that used to work came back and come back. And whether that's in SEO, which I think we always, as business owners, try to go towards the shiny object, and that's the advertising. But so often business owners don't focus on the SEO, the organic. And I think where not enough business owners are focusing on today, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, Yousaf, is actually the search engine optimization specifically for the large language models. Have you seen, or you started adjusting what you offer to make sure that your customer and your clients showing up in the large language model when they're asking for, give me 5 doctors in my general area that do X, Y, and Z, that those large language models are programmed to be able to deliver you up as the answer to that question?
You're far ahead of the curve. I think no one in PPC is talking about the way AI intakes or even the way people are changing their queries, right? Because before it used to be like more phrased, even more broad. I actually encourage frame it like a question, right? And you even had a good point, like top 10 doctors by me, or what's the best restaurant, Italian restaurant by me, etc. Really framing them as questions is how you. So now in Google, right, you have the AI results at the top, right? And that's like, I think it shows up roughly, I believe right now it's actually not very high. It only shows up about 30% of the time. For medical, it's actually 50-50, but it's increasing. That's the issue. So a lot of buyers are kind of freaking out about this. The way you get around it is really to be the results right below it. So when you ask these questions, right? Yes, sure, AI will come up. So when it says, top 10 Italian restaurants, really, let the AI do its thing, but right below it, it'll have your restaurant right there, right? Because you did that question and you saw that happening, and you included those questions that are very AI focused, and you included them in your PPC search queries. So I think that's or keywords, I should say, and then that appeared as a query. So that's actually, it's already changing the game, and a lot of buyers aren't doing stuff like that,
Does
and
AI
so that's
come
what I was
above-
talking about being,
Does AI come above the PPC in the search query? Like, so if I do a search query and
Yes,
I
it does.
have a bid on an ad, so you see AI, then PPC, then location listings, then organic, right?
Yes, exactly. AI always appears at the top. And like I said, depending on the topic, in general, it's about 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
But some topics, it's as high as 50%. So like, I think on medical, they purposely do AI topics at the top right now. It just, I guess they don't want any, influence, but, and then it goes to paid, then it goes to organics and other listings. So you're right. Yes.
And even what you're talking about isn't even exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, and what I saw a statistic the other day is that just in 2025, Google has lost 25 or 20% of the market search share. Since ChatGPT and Gemini and other, other companies have come out, that now these large language models are replacing the standard search engine models. And so what I'm talking about is actually, instead of popping open your browser and typing into Google, you're actually just popping open ChatGPT and asking that query into ChatGPT. And there is a way to modify your content on your website to speak to the large language models to where you're displaying as the answer to that question in the large language models around local SEO inside of those things. Like for me, I was looking for a doctor for a specific topic in the Dallas area, but it was for a very specific thing. And instead of going to Google, which gave me very generic answers, I went to ChatGPT and said, I'm looking for 5 doctors who do this, this, and this, that have this ability. Please give me the best examples. It's a different way to search in those large language models, but to be optimized in that is important. And I don't think a lot of businesses are thinking about that yet. I'm hearing a lot more entrepreneurs talk about it now, but I'm not hearing a lot of the average entrepreneur think about it. Other than that, is there anything else?
I do have one point on that.
Go ahead.
I do have one thing to add to that. And I think you're right. SEO is not dead. It's not dead by far. It's adapting, right? Instead of search, it's answer engine optimization. And that's where I think you see a lot of the movement there. But I would say this, like, you mentioned ChatGPT, right? And the thing with ChatGPT is it's not like, mysterious. Like really, ChatGPT is plugged in by Microsoft Bing. I'm not sure if you knew this.
Right,
it's at the pipeline. At its end of the day, it is a search engine, and it operates actually like a search engine. It does have the It does process it a little differently, but at the end of the day, the SEO, like you were saying, if you take that into account, it still has its DNA is SEO, and at the end of the day, it's using Microsoft Bing to do all these searches. So when people think, AI is going to, all these things, it's so serious, it's actually using the same tactics that we've used all along. You just have to adapt it. So because now you have this brain, this artificial intelligence that's taking all this data, sifting through it, and maybe taking out the, a lot of the PPC stuff or miscellaneous stuff, and it's just filtering. So you have to make sure you're part of that filtering process. That's all.
One of the things I saw in it, though, is the number one repository of data on ChatGPT is not Bing. I saw that the number one place it extracts the information is Reddit. And once again, maybe it is still based on Bing, but when it looks at the data sources and stuff it pulls is Reddit. And I was like, Reddit's not a fantastic place of data. You're going to go look it up right now, right? Like, is that true what he just said? But I saw Reddit was the number one directory place in which it's extracting a lot of the answers that it gives you to that, which to me, that's concerning in how serious people take it and in regards to the resource it uses to provide and extract the data.
Yeah, I just mean the pipeline. The pipeline itself is Microsoft.
I get what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And Google actually has a contract with Reddit too. I think Reddit actually powers a lot of inquiries. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that about ChatGPT and Reddit. So that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah. Well, Yousaf, we're kind of coming to the end here. We've gotten 40 minutes in. I bet a fantastic time getting to know you. Coming into 2026, what I'd love to know is, what is your biggest goal you're chasing after in 2026? It could be personally, could be professionally, could be around your business. What's the number one goal you're looking to attack in 2026?
I think it's, we had some great momentum. I think we were talking about that earlier too. We've had, I think for contractors, I think right now is a great opportunity. I know the job market is soft. It's hard. I get it. For contractors and contracting agencies, I think it's a great opportunity, especially if it's a great opportunity to own your business and go out there and make connections and be that source of labor for a lot of these companies that are looking to find somebody who's good and somebody who's affordable. For 2026, I think it's expounding on that. Like for me personally, I don't see it changing. That's the problem, or the larger problem for the economy. But I think as far as like my business, I think it's still making all those connections. I actually think you're right. It's really, increasing our prices, really. I think a lot of our clients right now who are coming in, come January, we're not going to have those rates. I could tell you that in January. Like in January, we'll probably mark up at least an extra 25% in January. I just see it. And it's crazy. But I think we're just, I think what service we give is like you were saying, is you have to make sure your P&L is there. And are you really giving a good service where, your team is not wasting their time on contracts that are legacy or low paying. It's really, stacking those contracts up to make sure they're being renewed, and hey, we have to revisit your business. Are we spending too much time in your business? Are we not? Questions like that I think we need to ask more of in our year 5 journey. So yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be interesting. And so what it sounds like, guys, if you want to get some help around your PPC, your SEO, your website, organic, all the stuff that we talked about here today, sounds like you need to get in contact with Yousaf between now and January to take advantage of maybe a cheaper rate before he raises the rates up here in January, guys. Yousaf, I appreciate you taking the time with us. I appreciate you spending it with us today. Any final words before we go?
No, Matt, thank you for this great opportunity. And, thank you again. It's been a great conversation. Absolutely.
Awesome. I appreciate it as well. For all of you guys, like, comment, share, get in touch with Yousaf. While we put all of his contact information in the bio of the post. And until next time, see you guys soon.